The day my parents called begging for my life savings, I should have known it was a trap. But even at 32, some part of me was still that desperate little girl, hoping that maybe this time they'd finally see me. I'm Daphne, and this is the story of how I lost everything, and then made sure my family lost even more. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was editing manuscripts, my usual freelance work. Mum's voice cracked with tears, something I'd rarely heard in my life. "Daphne, please, we need your help. We're about to lose the house." I sat up straighter, my fingers hovering over my keyboard. What happened? "The bank," Dad's voice now shaking. "We've fallen behind on payments. They're threatening foreclosure. We need $60,000 by next week, or we lose everything." The amount hit me like a punch to the gut. That was almost everything I'd saved over the past decade. Every extra editing job, every skipped vacation, every cheap apartment I'd lived in, all of it added up to just over that amount. "I know it's a lot," Mom whispered, "but we'll put you on the deed. The house will be partly yours. Please, sweetheart, we have nowhere else to turn." My sister Sierra's voice echoed in the background. "Is she going to help us or not?" I closed my eyes, remembering all the times Sierra got new cars while I took the bus. All the times they paid her rent while I worked 2 jobs. All the times they forgot my birthday but threw elaborate parties for her. "I need to think about it," I said. "We don't have time." Mom's voice rose sharply. "The bank, I'll call you back in an hour." I hung up and immediately called Emmett, my ex-boyfriend turned friend who happened to be a lawyer. "I need your help," I said when he answered, "and I need you to be brutally honest with me." 20 minutes later, we sat in his office, him in his wrinkled suit, me still in my work-from-home sweats. "You want my professional opinion?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. "Don't do it, but you're going to anyway, aren't you?" I nodded. "Then let's protect you." He pulled out a legal pad. "We're drawing up a loan agreement. Interest rates, repayment terms, consequences for default, everything." "They won't sign it," I said. "Then you don't give them the money." He started writing. Simple as that. 2 hours later, I stood in my parents' living room, document in hand. The house smelled like Mom's stress baking, cinnamon and desperation. Sierra lounged on the couch, scrolling through her phone, like this was just another family gathering. "What's this?" Mom asked, frowning at the papers. "Loan agreement. Standard stuff. You put me on the deed, I give you the money, you repay me within 2 years. Dad's face darkened. "You don't trust us. Would you trust someone asking for $60,000 without paperwork?" Sierra finally looked up. "Wow, Daphne, real nice. They're our parents. Then they shouldn't have a problem signing." Mom's hands shook as she read the first page. "This seems excessive." "It's standard," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Ask any lawyer." "We don't have time to consult lawyers," Dad snapped. "The bank..." "Then sign." I held out a pen. "Or I walk out that door and you can figure something else out." They signed, both of them right there on my carefully crafted loan agreement. They didn't even read past the first page, too desperate for the money, too certain they could handle their quiet, reliable daughter later. I transferred the money that night. All of it. Everything I'd worked for, gone in a single transaction. Mum hugged me, crying about how I'd saved them all. Sierra rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. Dad promised they'd start the deed transfer immediately. Later that night as I drove home, my hands shook so badly I had to pull over. I called Audrey, my best friend since college. "I did something either really stupid or really smart," I said when she answered. "Tell me you didn't give them the money." "I did, but I got something better." I looked at the signed agreement in my passenger seat. "I got proof." "Proof of what?" "That they're going to try to screw me over." I started my car again, suddenly calmer. "And when they do, I'll be ready." I was still stupid, but not as stupid as they thought I was. and soon they'd learn exactly how much that mistake would cost them. 3 weeks passed before I decided to make a surprise visit. I'd been calling daily about the deed transfer, but Mum always had an excuse. The lawyer was busy, the paperwork was complicated, they needed more time. That Sunday afternoon I drove to their house, determined to get answers. I parked a block away, a habit from my teenage years when I'd sneak out. The kitchen door had always been my secret entrance, and muscle memory guided me around the side of the house. But voices stopped me before I could knock. "I can't believe she fell for it." Sierra's laugh sharp and clear through the window. $60,000, just like that. My hand froze midair. Well, she always was the responsible one. Mum's voice now tinged with amusement. "Our little emergency fund. The best part is," Dad chuckled, "she thinks we're putting her on the deed, as if we hadn't already transferred it to Sierra last month." The world tilted sideways. I pressed my back against the wall, struggling to breathe. "But what about her loan agreement?" Sierra asked. "Shouldn't we be worried?" "Please." Mom's eye roll was audible. "It's Daphne. She'd never take us to court. She's too desperate for our approval. Besides," Dad added, "we can always claim it was a gift. She's been giving us money her whole life. No judge would side with her." My fingers found the loan agreement in my purse. I always carried it with me, paranoid about them somehow destroying their copy. Now I knew why. "I still think we should be careful," Sierra said. "She's not as stupid as she looks. Sweetheart, I've been managing your sister's expectations her entire life. Trust me, she'll roll over like she always does. Now, about that down payment for your new condo." I didn't stay to hear more. My legs carried me back to my car on autopilot, my mind eerily quiet. I sat there for a long time staring at nothing, letting their words sink in. Emergency fund, rollover, gift. My phone buzzed. Audrey calling. I answered without thinking. "Hey, I'm at that new cafe we talked about. Want to join?" "They planned it," I heard myself say. "The whole thing, they transferred the deed to Sierra before they even asked me for money." Silence, then, "Don't move, I'm coming to you." "Where are you?" "Outside their house." "Jesus, Daphne, drive to my place, now." 20 minutes later, I sat on Audrey's couch, clutching a coffee she'd shoved into my hands. She paced in front of me, her therapist mode fully activated. "We need to call Emmett," she said. "No." I pulled out the loan agreement. "Not yet." "Daphne, they stole from you. I know exactly what they did." My voice was steady now, cold. "They thought they were so clever, getting me to empty my savings. They thought I was still that desperate little girl who'd do anything for a scrap of love." Audrey stopped pacing. "What are you going to do?" I smoothed out the agreement on her coffee table. "You know what the beautiful thing about this document is? They didn't read it. They were so sure I was harmless they signed without reading." And Emmett added some interesting clauses about asset disclosure, about fraud, about what happens if they try to transfer property without notifying me. I looked up at Audrey, feeling something dark and satisfied unfurl in my chest. "They signed their own sentence and they don't even know it." "You're scaring me a little," Audrey said, but she was smiling. "Good, because I'm about to scare them a lot more." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. "First, I'm going to transfer every penny I have left to a new account they can't access. Then I'm going to call Emmett. And then I'm going to show them exactly how stupid I'm not." I stood up, suddenly energized. "They wanted to play games? Fine. But they forgot something important." "What's that?" "I've been watching them play these games my whole life. I know all their moves." I grabbed my keys. "And I've got proof of every single one." As I drove home that evening, their laughter echoed in my head. But this time it didn't hurt. This time it fueled me. "You made a mistake, Mom," I whispered to my empty car. "You signed my freedom and your sentence. The war they didn't know was coming would start tomorrow. And this time, I wasn't playing by their rules. The demand letter arrived at their house exactly 1 week later. I paid extra for certified mail requiring a signature. Mum signed for it at 10:43 a.m. on a Tuesday. By 10:47, my phone was exploding. I let it ring while I finished my coffee, watching the notifications pile up. 3 calls from Mum, 2 from Dad, 5 text messages from Sierra, each one more hysterical than the last. Finally, I answered. "What is this?" Mum's voice trembled with rage. "I believe the letter is quite clear," I said, channeling Emmett's professional tone. "You have 60 days to repay the loan in full, or we proceed with legal action." "Legal action?" she sputtered. "We're your family. Yes, you made that very clear when you transferred the deed to Sierra before asking for my money." Silence. Then, "You were at the house. The kitchen door was always my favourite entrance. You taught me that, remember? All those times you locked me out." Dad's voice cut in. "Now listen here, young lady." "No, you listen." My voice could have frozen hell. "You have 60 days, every penny plus interest as outlined in the agreement you signed. Otherwise, I file suit and pursue asset forfeiture." "Asset," Mom choked. "You wouldn't dare. Try me." Sierra's voice now shrill and panicked. "You can't do this. The house is mine." Actually about that, I smiled into the phone. "You might want to check the property records again. Seems there are some interesting discrepancies in the transfer documentation." Another silence, heavier this time. "What did you do?" Mum whispered. "Me? Nothing yet, but the mortgage company might have received an anonymous tip about potential fraud. Funny how quickly they start investigating when words like forged documents come up." "You bitch," Sierra breathed. "I learnt from the best, sis." I checked my watch. 60 days, not a minute more. I hung up and immediately blocked their numbers. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Adrenaline coursed through me, electric and alive. My phone buzzed again. "Emmett, they got the letter," he said when I answered. "How do you know?" "Because your mother just called my office screaming about ungrateful daughters and family loyalty. I recorded the whole thing." I laughed. "Of course you did. She threatened to sue me for malpractice, said I manipulated you into this. What did you say?" I reminded her that she signed a legally binding document without reading it. Then I hung up. He paused. "You know they're going to fight this." "Let them." I opened my laptop, pulling up the folder labelled Family Business. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Later that afternoon I met Audrey for lunch. She was already waiting at our usual table, 2 glasses of wine ready. "You look different," she said as I sat down. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you finally put down something heavy." I took a sip of wine. "I sent the letter. And now we wait." I pulled out my phone, showing her the blocked numbers. "They can't reach me directly anymore. Everything goes through Emmett." "They must be losing their minds." "Oh, they are," I smiled. "But here's the best part. I had Emmett send copies of the loan agreement to their country club board. You know, the one where Mom's been treasurer for 15 years. Audrey's eyes widened. "You didn't?" Along with some questions about the club's financial records. Anonymous, of course. "Daphne," she leaned forward. "That's deliciously evil." "No, that's just the beginning." I pulled up an email on my phone. "Remember Summer, Mom's old friend who suddenly disappeared 10 years ago? The one they said moved to Florida? She never moved. Mum forced her out of the social circle after discovering some interesting financial irregularities at their charity foundation." I showed her the email. "Summer's been waiting years to tell her story." Holy shit. Mom always said image was everything. I put my phone away. Let's see how she likes watching hers crumble. Audrey studied me over her wine glass. "You're really doing this." They thought I was weak because I was quiet, because I watched and waited and kept my mouth shut. I met her eyes. But I saw everything, and now they're going to see exactly what I learned. My phone buzzed with a text from Emmett. Your sister's boyfriend just called, says he has information you need to hear. I showed Audrey the message. Think it's a trap? She asked. Probably. I finished my wine. But I'm done running from their traps. This time I'm setting them. The game was changing, and for once I held all the cards. I met Heath at a coffee shop downtown, far from my parents' usual haunts. He was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with his designer watch, the one Sierra had bragged about buying him last Christmas. With my money, apparently. Thanks for meeting me, he said as I sat down. Make it quick. I kept my coat on. I have a meeting in 30 minutes. Look, Sierra doesn't know I'm here. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Your parents, they're not who you think they are. Actually, they're exactly who I think they are. No, you don't understand. He glanced around nervously. The house isn't the first time they've done something like this. That got my attention. Go on. Your mum's been running this scheme for years. She finds wealthy friends, gains their trust, becomes treasurer of their organizations, and then... He made a vanishing gesture with his hands. Like Summer. His eyes widened. You know about Summer? I know enough. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Why don't you tell me more? An hour later, I sat in Emmett's office, playing back Heath's confession. Emmett's expression grew darker with each revelation. So your mother's been embezzling from multiple organizations, he said when the recording finished. And your father's been helping cover it up through his accounting firm. While Sierra plays the perfect daughter, distracting everyone with her charity work and social connections. I laughed bitterly. The perfect front. This is bigger than the loan now. Emmett started typing on his computer. We're talking serious fraud charges. Can we prove it? With Summer's testimony and Heath's information, he nodded. We can start pulling threads. These things leave paper trails. My phone buzzed. A text from Summer. Just got served with a cease and desist letter from your mother's lawyer. She's trying to shut me up. I showed Emmett the message. She's scared, he said. Good. Scared people make mistakes. That evening I drove past my parents' house. The country club's annual garden party was in full swing, their last-ditch attempt at maintaining appearances. Through the front windows I could see Mom holding court in her favourite blue dress, laughing with her society friends. But something was off. The crowd was thinner than usual. People were checking their phones, whispering in corners. The Foundation's financial records had started circulating that morning, courtesy of an anonymous email blast. My phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Daphne? A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. Who's asking? Margaret, from the garden committee. She lowered her voice. I saw the numbers, the missing funds from the Children's Hospital fundraiser. I think I know where they went. By midnight, I had 3 more calls like that. Former friends, business associates, people Mom had stepped on during her climb to social prominence. They all had stories. They all had proof. Audrey came over with wine and takeout, listening as I pieced it all together. Your mother's like a black widow, she said, spinning this web of lies and stealing from everyone who trusts her. And Sierra's following in her footsteps. I showed her the latest email, bank statements showing suspicious transfers from the youth centre where Sierra volunteered. The golden child learned well. What are you going to do with all this? Everything goes to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I closed my laptop, but first I want them to feel what's coming. The next morning, Mom's social media exploded with unfollows and angry comments. The country club board called an emergency meeting. Dad's biggest accounting clients started quietly taking their business elsewhere. Sierra called Emmett's office in tears. Tell her to stop, she begged. Tell her we'll pay back the money. It's too late for that, he replied. The truth doesn't stop just because you're ready to confess. That afternoon, Summer called me. Your mother just tried to bribe me, she said. Offered me double what she stole if I'll retract my statement. What did you say? I told her this isn't the first time they've stolen from you. My heart stopped. What do you mean? Oh, honey, Summer's voice softened. There's something you need to know about your college fund. The one that mysteriously disappeared right before your freshman year. I gripped the phone tighter. Tell me everything. The truth was worse than I imagined. But it was just the beginning. The house of cards was starting to fall, and my family was about to learn that karma has perfect aim. Sierra ambushed me outside my apartment on a rainy Thursday morning. She looked terrible, designer clothes wrinkled, makeup smeared, nothing like her usual perfect self. We need to talk, she said, blocking my path to my car. Everything goes through Emmett. Please. Her voice cracked. Mom and Dad, they're not well. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Mom can barely sleep. Guilty consciences will do that. They're our parents. She grabbed my arm. How can you be so cold? I yanked free. Funny how family matters now that you're all facing consequences. I know we hurt you. Hurt me? I laughed. You stole my college fund, made me work 3 jobs while you got a free ride. Then you helped them steal my savings and tried to forge my signature on property documents. She paled. How did you... Heath talks a lot when he's scared. I stepped closer. Tell me, did you forge the signature yourself or did Mom do it for you? It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you're only here because the walls are closing in. The country club's auditing their books. Dad's clients are leaving. Your precious reputation is in tatters. Tears spilled down her cheeks. They'll lose everything. They already lost me. They just never cared enough to notice. My phone buzzed. Emmett calling. Sierra grabbed my wrist as I reached for it. Wait, what if I could prove they're sorry? What if they agreed to pay everything back? I studied her face, the desperation, the calculation behind the tears. Same old Sierra, always working an angle. Show me your phone, I said suddenly. What? Your phone. Show me. She hesitated, then handed it over. I opened her recording app and found exactly what I expected, an active recording. Still Mom's perfect little spy, aren't you? I stopped the recording and emailed it to myself. Thanks for the evidence of attempted manipulation. Emmett will love this. You bitch! Her mask finally cracked. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what's coming. Is that a threat? It's a promise. She stepped back, suddenly composed. You want to play hardball? Fine, but remember, I learned from the best. She stormed off to her Mercedes, leaving me shaking with adrenaline. I called Emmett immediately. Sierra just tried to set me up, I said when he answered. Recording the conversation, probably hoping I'd incriminate myself. Perfect timing, he replied. I was just about to call you. We found something interesting in the property records. What? The signature they forged. It wasn't just on the deed transfer. There are multiple documents with your fake signature, going back years. My stomach dropped. How many? At least a dozen. Loan applications, tax documents, even some insurance policies. They've been forging my signature for years. Looks like it. And guess who notarized most of these documents? Heath, I whispered. Bingo. He's agreed to testify in exchange for immunity. I leaned against my car, letting the rain soak through my jacket. What else did he say? That's the interesting part. He claims Sierra has a safety deposit box at First National, one she visits every time there's a major document signing. You think that's where they keep the forgeries? Only one way to find out? He paused. But we need to move fast. Sierra's getting sloppy, which means she's desperate. That afternoon, I met Audrey for lunch. She listened as I recounted everything. You know what's weird? She said when I finished. Through all of this, they're still more worried about their reputation than actually fixing things. That's because they don't think they did anything wrong. I stirred my untouched coffee. In their minds, they were entitled to my money, to my signature, to my life. And now they're about to learn about real consequences. I showed her the email from Emmett, a court order for Sierra's safety deposit box. The hearing's tomorrow. Are you ready? For the truth? No. I looked out the window at the rain. For justice? Absolutely. My phone buzzed with a text from Heath. Sierra's at the bank right now. She knows you're coming for the box. I forwarded it to Emmett, who replied immediately. Already called the bank. Box is frozen. Nothing goes in or out. Checkmate, I whispered. What? Audrey asked. They're running out of moves. I grabbed my keys. And I'm done playing defense. Tomorrow, that safety deposit box would tell its secrets, and my family would learn that their perfect plan had one fatal flaw. They underestimated the daughter they never wanted. The courthouse hallway felt like a battlefield. My parents and Sierra huddled with their lawyer on one side, while Emmett and I stood on the other. Heath sat alone in the middle, looking like he might throw up. Last chance, Mum's lawyer called across the hall. We can settle this privately. Not anymore, Emmett replied, holding up the court order for the safety deposit box. Sierra's face went white. She grabbed her lawyer's arm, whispering frantically. Mum's perfect posture crumbled slightly. The bailiff called us in. As we filed past Heath, Sierra hissed, "Traitor!" He flinched, but said nothing. Judge Martinez didn't waste time on pleasantries. We're here regarding evidence of document forgery and financial fraud. The contents of safety deposit box 247 have been secured. Yes, Your Honour, the bank representative confirmed. The box was sealed yesterday afternoon, shortly after Ms. Sierra attempted to access it. Attempted? The judge raised an eyebrow. She became agitated when denied access. Security had to escort her out. Sierra sank lower in her seat. Mum's fingers dug into Dad's arm. Proceed with the opening, Judge Martinez ordered. The bank representative placed the box on the evidence table. My heart pounded as she turned the key. Inside lay dozens of documents neatly organised. The bank representative handed them to the court clerk, who began reading loan applications dating from 2015 to present, tax documents, property transfers, all bearing the signature of Daphne. Objection! Sierra's lawyer jumped up. These documents are private family matters. Which were subpoenaed legally, Emmett interrupted, and we have an expert witness ready to testify about the forgeries. Heath stood up shakily. Sierra's face twisted with rage. You lying piece of... Ms. Sierra! Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Control yourself or be removed. Heath approached the witness stand. Under oath, he detailed everything. Sierra's practice sessions perfecting my signature, Mom's careful coaching, Dad's strategic notarizing. And these, Emmett held up a stack of papers. Templates, Heath said quietly. They used them whenever they needed Daphne's signature on something new. Mom finally broke. We did it for the family. Everything was for the family. Mrs. Regina, the judge warned. She was always so difficult about money, Mom continued, hysteria creeping into her voice. Always questioning, always refusing to help. We had to commit fraud. I stood up. Had to steal my identity, my college fund, my savings. You ungrateful... Sierra lunged forward, but her lawyer grabbed her. Your Honour, Emmett said calmly, we moved to freeze all assets pending criminal investigation. The evidence suggests this fraud extends well beyond my client. No! Mom's scream echoed through the courtroom. You can't! The house that was fraudulently transferred. Emmett produced more documents. We have proof the deed transfer used a forged signature, making it null and void. Sierra started crying. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. Mom just kept shaking her head, whispering, no, no, no. The judge reviewed the evidence, her expression growing darker with each page. I've seen enough, she finally said. Assets frozen pending investigation. The property transfer is invalidated and... She looked directly at my family. I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal charges. Criminal, Dad whispered. Identity theft, fraud, financial exploitation, multiple counts. The judge closed her folder. I strongly suggest you all get criminal defense attorneys. As we left the courtroom, Sierra screamed after me, "You've ruined everything." I turned back slowly. "No, you did that yourselves. Every lie, every theft, every time you chose greed over love." I met Mom's eyes. I just exposed it. Outside, Heath caught up to me. "There's something else you should know." "What now? The reason they needed your college fund?" He glanced around nervously. "Sierra was in trouble, big trouble, the kind that needed expensive lawyers to make disappear." "What kind of trouble?" "Ask your mum about the hospital records from 2015, the ones she paid to have sealed." He handed me a folded paper. "This is the case number." I watched him walk away, that final piece of information burning in my hand. Emmett appeared beside me. "Want me to look into it?" he asked. "Not yet." I tucked the paper away. "First, I want them to sit with this, to feel what's coming." "They won't go down quietly." "I know." I looked back at the courthouse where my family huddled with their lawyers. "But for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of their noise." That night I sat in my apartment staring at the case number Heath had given me. One more secret, one more lie. Tomorrow I'd start digging. But tonight I let myself feel the weight of victory and the price of justice. The war wasn't over, but I'd just won the biggest battle. The hospital records arrived on a Tuesday morning. Emmett handed me the manila envelope with an uncharacteristic hesitation. "Are you sure you want to read these?" I took the envelope. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that your mother paid $500,000 to make it disappear." He sat down heavily. "Money that apparently came from your college fund." Inside were police reports, medical records, and witness statements. As I read, the world tilted sideways. Sierra had been driving drunk. There'd been an accident, a family of 4. "They died," my voice cracked. "The parents survived, the children didn't." Emmett's voice was gentle. "Your parents used their connections to bury it. Changed records, paid off officials. Sierra walked away without a scratch, legally and literally. My college fund, my future, sacrificed to cover up my sister's crimes. Does she even remember?" I whispered. "According to Heath, she jokes about it at parties, calls it her lucky escape." The rage that filled me was arctic cold. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I'd been saving. "Detective Roberts, I have information about a cold case from 2015. Everything moved quickly after that. By evening, police cars lined our family street. I watched from my car as they led Sierra out in handcuffs, Mom screaming on the front lawn, Dad silent and grey-faced. My phone buzzed. "Audrey." "It's all over the news," she said when I answered. "How are you holding up?" "I'm at the house, watching." "Want company?" "No, but thanks." I watched as Mom collapsed dramatically onto the grass. "I need to do something first." I waited until the police cars left, then walked up to the front door. Mom saw me through the window and yanked it open. "How could you?" she shrieked. "Your own sister!" "How could I?" I stepped past her into the house. "2 children died, Mom, and you covered it up. We had to protect her. With my money, my future." I turned to face her. "Did you ever even hesitate?" "Of course we did," Dad spoke up from his armchair. "But Sierra, she's special. She needed consequences," I cut in. "She needed to face what she'd done. Instead, you taught her that money solves everything. That lives don't matter as long as you can pay to make problems disappear." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Sierra at a party, laughing about her lucky escape. Mom's face crumpled. "Where did you get that?" "Heath recorded everything. Every joke, every casual mention of the accident. He's been collecting evidence for years, waiting for someone to finally hold her accountable. "We'll fix this," Mom said desperately. "We'll hire lawyers." "No." I walked to the family photos on the wall, dozens of Sierra, barely any of me. "You can't fix this with money anymore. The DA has everything, the original accident reports, the falsified records, the bribes. It's over." "What do you want?" Dad asked quietly. "I want you to sit in this empty house and think about every choice you made, every time you chose Sierra over justice, every time you used my money to cover her crimes." I turned to leave. "The house is mine now, legally. You have 48 hours to move out." "You're evicting us?" Mum's voice rose to a shriek. "After everything we've done for you?" I laughed, a cold, hard sound. "Everything you've done for me. You stole my future to cover up your precious daughter's murders. You forged my signature and stole my savings. You've done nothing for me except teach me exactly who you are." "We're your parents." "No." I opened the front door. "You're just people who had a daughter they never wanted and another they never controlled. And now you get to live with those choices." Outside, reporters had gathered. Cameras flashed as I walked to my car. Mum ran out after me. "All I wanted was your honesty," I told her, loud enough for the cameras to hear. "You cashed that in for Sierra's comfort. Now you get to watch it all burn." Later that night I sat in Emmett's office watching the news coverage. Sierra's mugshot, the accident details, my parents' role in the cover-up. "The DA wants to make a deal," Emmett said. "They'll reduce Sierra's charges if she testifies against your parents about the cover-up." "Let me guess, she's already agreed?" "Faster than you can say self-preservation." He smiled grimly. "The golden child's crown is tarnished." I nodded, feeling strangely empty. "What now?" "Now?" He handed me the house keys. "Now you decide what justice looks like." I took the keys, their weight familiar yet different. Like everything else, they felt like both an ending and a beginning. But something still nagged at me. One last secret, waiting in that house. I just didn't know how much more truth I could handle. The house felt different, empty. My footsteps echoed through bare rooms as I walked upstairs, past the blank spaces where family photos once hung. Mum and Dad had moved out yesterday, leaving behind only what they couldn't carry. In their bedroom I found Mom's old vanity, too heavy to move quickly. The drawers were empty except for one stuck at the back. I yanked it open and found a leather-bound journal. My phone rang. Audrey. "Have you seen the news?" she asked when I answered. "Sierra took the deal. She's testifying tomorrow. Let me guess, she's throwing our parents under the bus." "Completely. She's claiming they forced her to keep quiet about the accident, playing victim." I opened the journal, Mom's familiar handwriting filling the pages. "Hold on, I need to call you back." The first entry was dated the day I was born. As I read, my hands began to shake. "I can't love her like I should," Mom had written. "She's not Talon's. Every time I look at her, I see my mistake, my shame. But Talon agreed to raise her as his own, to never tell her the truth. We'll have our own child soon, a real family." The journal fell from my numb fingers. Suddenly everything made sense. The constant rejection, the favoritism, the way Dad could never quite meet my eyes. I drove to the detention centre where they were holding Mom. She looked small in the orange jumpsuit, her carefully maintained image stripped away. "I found your journal," I said through the visiting room glass. She closed her eyes. "So now you know. Who is he? My real father? Does it matter?" "It mattered enough for you to punish me my entire life for it." She leaned forward. "I gave you a good life." "You gave me trauma." I pressed my hand against the glass. "Every time you chose Sierra, every time you stole from me, every time you made me feel worthless, it was all because I reminded you of your guilt. I tried to love you." "No, you tried to erase me." I stood up. "But you failed. because I'm stronger than your shame." Outside, I called Emmett. "I'm selling the house," I said when he answered. "Are you sure? You fought hard for it." "It's not a victory if I keep it. It's just another chain." I watched the sunset paint the sky purple. I want to be free. That night I sat with Audrey on my balcony, sharing wine and truth. "So, what now?" she asked. "Now I write my own story." I showed her the real estate listings I'd been browsing, small houses with garden space far from my family's shadow. Something that's just mine. "And your parents? Sierra?" "Sierra will serve time for vehicular manslaughter. Less than she deserves, but more than she expected." I sipped my wine. "Mom and Dad are facing fraud charges. Their reputation is destroyed. Their friends have abandoned them." "And that's enough?" "No, but it's justice." I smiled slightly. "Besides, living well is the best revenge." My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. The first contact since the arrest. "I should have been better," it read. "Not because you weren't mine by blood, but because you were mine by choice. I failed you, I'm sorry." I showed Audrey the message. "Are you going to respond?" she asked. "No." I deleted it. Some bridges need to stay burned. The next morning I met with a real estate agent at the house. As she talked about market values and staging, I walked through the rooms one last time. In my old bedroom I found a small heart carved into the window frame. My secret mark from childhood. I traced it with my finger, remembering the girl who dreamed of being loved. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her, "but I love you now, and that's enough." The agent called me downstairs. As I walked through the front door, I didn't look back. The house that held so many painful memories would soon belong to someone else. Let them fill it with better stories. My phone rang. Emmett again. "The DA has one last question," he said. "Do you want to make a victim impact statement at the sentencing?" I watched a moving truck pull up to the house, ready to clear out the last pieces of my old life. "No," I said. "I've said everything I need to say. Let the silence speak for itself." I hung up and got in my car. In the rearview mirror, the house grew smaller until it disappeared completely. Ahead, the road stretched open and empty. Not an ending, but a beginning. Some people say revenge doesn't bring peace. They're wrong. It brought me something better. It brought me home to myself.